How can the Ukraine oil wars affect our lives? The International Energy Agency is urging governments worldwide for Sunday laws to resolve the oil shortage and climate change. Are we going to finally see the initial steps of National Sunday Law prophesied in the Bible? This is Truth in Bible Prophecy. I'm Brother Jericho, bringing you Christ-centered videos showing current events with prophetic significance. May you listen with an open heart as I present to you Oil Wars and Sunday Law. War in Ukraine and Russia is still going on, and many Americans have assumed this war is not going to affect us. And since we are thousands of miles away from Kiev and just watching the news from a distance, many of us think that this war would be just an obscure and isolated war, and we would just continue in life, business, and school as usual. But the Ukraine and Russia war have hit us hard. In what way? The skyrocketing price of crude oil to start with. Traveling just got a lot expensive compared to few weeks ago, pre-Russian invasion. The soaring gas prices today have caused a global alarm. How can we cope up with this crisis? Why is Russia causing gas price to soar? Russia is one of the giants when it comes to the oil market. They ship millions and millions of barrels on a daily basis. Currently, there's a colossal demand for oil. What happens when Russia oil suddenly stops entering the international market? 12% of the world's oil comes from Russia. And with all the sanctions that Russia is facing today, this would significantly affect our household budget. New York Times says Russian sanction could create supply crisis as oil output falls. The International Energy Agency warns that the global economy could be whipsawed by both disruption to oil supplies and a sharp fall in demand resulting from Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The organization said the world could be heading into what it called the biggest supply crisis in decades. Analysts estimated that there was the potential for as much as 1/3 of Russian oil production, or about 3 million barrels a day, to be shut down in April as sanctions and restrictions on major oil companies, banks, and shipping firms took hold. Let us get ready this April. We are about to face more challenges coming as oil crisis intensifies. What would be the direct effect of this oil crisis in our household? When refineries start paying more for oil, they charge more from the distributor. The distributor charges more from the petrol pump. And because of this chain, you end up paying more for petrol pump. And this is just the tip of the iceberg. This means that traveling will also become expensive. Vehicles like trucks, deliveries, and flying an airplane becomes far more expensive. The snowballing effect is here. Your friendly bread store will start charging you double for he has paid more with the supplier. The situation will be worse for European countries. Depend heavily on Russia for gas. The point here is when oil is expensive, everything is expensive. What the war in Ukraine means for the world's food supply. What is happening in Ukraine now also is radiating outward and threatening food availability in less prosperous nations that had come to depend on exports of grain and other food products from Ukraine and Russia. Russia and Ukraine are Europe's breadbasket. The International Food Policy Research Institute estimates that their exports represent 12% of all the food calories traded in the world. The two countries account for almost 30% of global wheat exports, almost 20% of corn exports, and more than 80% of the world's supply of sunflower oil. We will soon have to pay more for flour, pasta, pizza, bread, and pizza. Every wheat-based product Egypt, Turkey, and Bangladesh will likely be the hardest hit upon cornflakes, even popcorn. Putin said that food prices would rise globally due to soaring fertilizer prices if the West created problems for Russia's export of fertilizers, which account for 13% of world output. Russia is a major producer of potash, phosphate, and nitrogen containing fertilizers, major crop and soil nutrients. The war has already led to soaring prices in fertilizers, which are no longer affordable for farmers. President Biden announced a U.S. ban on Russian oil and gas imports over the country's invasion of Ukraine, a direct hit on Russian President Vladimir Putin's main revenue source as Russian forces continued their battering of Ukrainian cities. Biden says, "Today, I am announcing the United States is targeting the main artery of Russia's economy." The president said, "We're banning all imports of Russian oil and gas energy. That means Russian oil will no longer be accepted in U.S. ports." We are not exactly certain and sure what would be the future of this oil crisis, but you do not have to be an economist or an analyst to know that it will get worse. And even if the war ends in the near future, our world will never be the same again. What is the connection of oil wars on Pope Francis's Laudato Si mandatory Sunday agenda? IEA, International Energy Agency, strongly suggests the government for car-free Sundays. IEA sets out a 10-point plan to reduce global oil demand. The IEA said that many of its proposals could be implemented by governments of advanced economies immediately, and estimated how much oil they would save by doing so. Car-free Sundays in cities every Sunday saves about 380,000 BPD. One Sunday a month saves 95,000. The IEA called for governments to pursue such measures to counter massive global disruption. Sustained reductions are important not only to improve countries' energy security, but also to tackle climate change and to reduce air pollution, it said. Laudato Si paragraph 13, the urgent challenge to protect our common home includes a concern to bring the whole human family together, to seek a sustainable and integral development. For we know that things can change. Humanity still has the ability to work together in building our common home. Car-free Sundays is the strongest suggestion to remedy the oil crisis and climate change. Whether they recognize it or not, gradually the world is yielding to the Laudato Si agenda and in the near future enforcing the mark of the beast. Francis said, Sunday sacredness must be implemented for the common good and for our common home, meaning universality. Famine, pestilence, and wars are signs of the nearness of the advent of Jesus Christ. The book of Revelation tells us that economic crisis will be experienced in the final days. It will get worse before it gets better. In Revelation 13, foretells the future of those who will remain faithful to God. All the world wandered after the beast. So all the world wanders after him. And the question is, why? Why, since God has given such a solemn warning not to worship the Antichrist beast? Why would the whole world do it anyway? There are two reasons. Number one, economic boycott. Revelation 13 verse 17, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. God's faithful people who will receive the seal of God will face economic boycott. Number two, there will be pressure. There will be tremendous pressure at end time. If you do not have the mark, you cannot buy or sell. Now that's pressure. Just like in the Dark Ages, persecution, force will be used so that the whole world would receive and comply. Revelation 13 verse 15. And cause all who refuse to worship the image to be killed. That's a death decree. Ultimately at end time, those that refuse the mark of the beast will be threatened with death. Exactly the same pattern as the medieval times, Dark Ages, where the papal Antichrist kills professed Christians. Revelation 18, this chapter begins with the appearance of another angel coming from heaven with great authority and glory that illuminates the whole world. Verse 1, his radiating glory outshines the seductive glory of Babylon. He proclaims with a loud voice, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great." This proclamation reiterates the message of the second angel in Revelation 14 verse 8. Its fall is total and complete. No more music and no everyday business or domestic activities such as craftsmanship and food production. The purpose of Revelation 18 is to assure God's wandering people on earth, especially those living at the end time, that evil will not last forever. The readers of Revelation are reminded over and over again that God will judge the evil in the world. He is with His people even when they suffer unjustly. His people, however, must patiently wait, for evil in the world will not last forever. The time is coming when evil will finally be defeated and never rise again. This will secure the eternal deliverance of God's people and bring them to their long-awaited home, heavenly kingdom. Oil in the Bible represents the Holy Spirit, and the parable of the 10 virgins told by Jesus emphasizes this. And before Jesus returns, there would be an oil crisis for the foolish virgins, representing people that did not remain faithful to the teachings of Jesus. They did not endure to the end, for the Holy Spirit is not with them. And Jesus will declare to them, "I never knew you. Depart from me, you workers of sin," meaning lawlessness. But we can let our light shine today, friend, by totally surrendering to Jesus. Uplift Christ as your righteousness, and in Him we find true refuge and safety. Kindly type in the comment section, "I'm going to shine for Jesus." Join God's army, faithful one. Stand with Truth and Bible Prophecy Ministries, and may we all continue to seek truth in Bible prophecy.